Welcome back to the Talk Yours podcast. And in today's episode, we're going to be doing something a little different, something we haven't done in a while. And we're just going to be talking about a whole bunch of stories because a whole lot of things are coming up because the trade deadline is now in less than a month. I believe it's on the 11th or like the 9th or something of February.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of rumors, a lot of games have been going on. We are like literally in the very middle of the season. And the first thing I want to talk about is Ja Morant. Now, the trade rumors have obviously been going around. They've been going around for probably a couple months. And it's probably been like a year in the making, this kind of trade, because Ja and just his off the court antics, they haven't really aligned with what the Grizzlies have been and have identified as since Dylan Brooks left, because he really was the identity of that team. But I do want to, so a report did just come out by Mike A. Scotto. I don't know why he doesn't just go by Mike Scotto, but whatever. The Pelicans are the latest team to show interest in Ja Morant. And he's about to list like 5 or 6 teams that I'm going to read you the quote, Cam. And I want you to actually rate these teams. We'll go one by one. And let's talk about how good of a fit Ja Morant would be on each of these teams. Because these are some interesting teams for Ja to go to. Here's the quote. Despite the production dip, several teams have registered interest in trading for Morant recently, including the Heat, Bucks, Kings, Raptors, and Pelicans. League sources told Hoops Hype. Within league circles, there have been rumblings that Morant's desire for months has been to land with the Miami Heat. But let's just start with the very first team. Cam, how good of a fit do you think Ja Morant would be on the Miami Heat?
I think Ja on the Miami Heat is what a lot of people look at when you talk about fit. I think the biggest issue is that Tyler Hero is already there. So any potential trade for Ja Morant sounds like it would have to include Tyler Hero. And that to me is giving up too much for Ja Morant.
I think it could be Tyler Hero, but I do see a world where I did see Andrew Wiggins getting a lot of interest in the trade wire or whatever you want to call it, especially like the Bucks. Apparently the Bucks really want Wiggins. Do you think like a Wiggins and like Khalil Ware trade could happen for Ja, and that Ja and Hero could be a backcourt? Like, is that even feasible? Because right now, I mean, they have Norman Powell too, so that's a very small starting 1 through 3.
The thing is, Khalil Ware, I mean, I don't want to get too distracted from the topic, but Khalil Ware going to Memphis doesn't make sense. We talked about this the other day, and just with Jaren and Edey already, where do you find minutes for Khalil Ware? Something we're going to get to later is probably the lack of minutes that he's been getting in Miami despite his good play. So I don't see that as being a position that a team would seek to put him in necessarily. Because if you do that, then as Memphis, you're saying that you believe he's going to progress beyond at least Edey's level in the near future.
Which he could.
He could, but then what does that say to Edey? What does that say to Ware? I just don't think that's a position you want to put 2 young centers in on the same team. But in terms of Ja Morant's fit with Miami, I do like the idea of Miami having an actual point guard, except for the fact that Davion Mitchell has been a pretty good distribution type point guard. Miami, I can see why they're trying to raise their ceiling. They had a good start to the season, and they're in a position where they're trying to compete right now. But the key is not trading for a Ja Morant. The key is that Bam Adebayo starts playing better, because that's really what's holding them back right now as a team. And overall, I don't love the fit. It's not the worst fit in the world. It's a place I could very well see him ending up, especially personality-wise. But
I think that's why it's a terrible fit. He cannot go. Miami and Memphis are 2 very different cities, but they're similar in in a lot of different ways, actually. And I just don't. I think it is very easy. If you were distracted in Memphis, you're going to be even more distracted in Miami, and that has been the whole precedent of Ja Morant's whole career. Is he has been a distracted player who has been doing the other off the court things, and I don't think he'll fit well with Spo. I like the Heat have shown interest in Ja Morant, but I couldn't imagine it is Spoelstra that is interested in Ja Morant.
No.
Versus just like Pat Riley and just any management trying to keep their job, I guess.
And I really wouldn't imagine, number one, I wouldn't imagine Pat Riley's trying to keep his job. And number two, I wouldn't imagine that Pat Riley has a ton of interest in Ja Morant, given those personality problems. We saw how he handled the Jimmy Butler situation. Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra both seemingly have very little tolerance for those sort of distractions from their players. I don't think it's something that either of them truly wants. I think this is more buzz maybe from ownership than anything else, potentially wanting to get a big name in Miami. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this fit. I don't think it's the worst one on this list, but
All right, team number 2, the Milwaukee Bucks.
I do like this fit. I do think. I mean, we're talking about a city that Ja Morant is not going to get into trouble in. You put him in Milwaukee, he's going to have a hard time finding a way to put himself in a bad position.
He might learn how to golf.
Yeah, he might become an upstanding citizen. I mean, but the problem, and maybe it's not a problem because maybe he's involved in the trade. You've got Ryan Rollins, you've got KPJ. It is a crowded backcourt to begin with. You've got Gary Trent Jr. Obviously, you're going to want to give Ja Morant minutes over those guys if you trade for him. Giannis has never really played next to a guy who was the primary playmaker. Maybe you could say Eric Bledsoe.
That's the best comp of point guards he's played with is probably Eric Bledsoe. And even then, there's such different players.
And so it concerns me because Ja Morant is not a good spot-up shooter. And the only way that Ja Morant and Giannis are going to be able to feed off each other is really
the pick and roll.
Unless you want to say that Giannis is going to open up driving lanes for Ja.
But that's a nasty pick and roll right there. I mean, every point guard that Giannis has played with has been a guy who kind of, when they run a pick and roll, they kind of stay along that 3-point line. And it's harder to hit the roll man, honestly. If you're one of those, Damian Lillard type of players, when you're Ja Morant, I mean, that's unstoppable right there.
It should be, in theory.
And the guys that Ja Morant's going to be replacing are very low, or I guess high leverage guys. I don't know which way I'm trying to say, but pretty much, I mean, Kevin Porter Jr. is on a minimum contract and, you're not too financially obliged to him. Same thing with Ryan Rollins. Like, you can replace these guys. I will say, though, I do think the issue isn't the guard play in Milwaukee. I think it's the wings.
It is.
And specifically the big man position.
No, I was going to say, I like this trade for Milwaukee on the condition that they also acquire a good 3-and-D wing before the deadline. Because if you don't, you're kind of just stuck in the same predicament where you don't have a team that can really shoot well and space the floor well next to these two slashers. So there's no reason for defenses to do anything other than commit to driving lanes. Because if Gary Trent Jr. and AJ Green, I mean, decent shooters, right?
Yeah.
But both not guys that you really want to rely on defensively.
Especially, next to a Ja Morant, next to a Kevin Porter Jr. And
I'd rather honestly see them
at this point, Miles Turner.
Yeah,
is not the defensive
I mean,
player.
we talked about, you said it earlier, I'd rather see them get like an Andrew Wiggins over a Ja Morant. But if they can get someone like an Andrew Wiggins, then I think a Ja Morant and Giannis duo would be really effective.
I think so. Yeah. Team number 3 is the Sacramento Kings.
I dislike this fit most.
Really?
Out of all of them. And it has nothing to do with a basketball perspective. It has to do with the fact that the Kings, even with Ja Morant, will not be good. And their priority should be lottery. If anything, the Kings should be looking to sell at the deadline. I don't know how much value pieces like DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine and Domantas Sabonis and Russell Westbrook and Dennis Schroeder have. But those are 5 names right there that are still names that you can maybe trade away for something. Maybe future picks, maybe an asset.
Do you think the Kings can really lose their spot by that much, though? Like, is Ja Morant leading them almost to the play-in?
I would rather guarantee that I'm going to finish as the 14 or 15 seed than risk going to 12 or 11.
But then now what? Now you're the Sacramento Kings. Now you might have like this top 4 or 5 pick maybe, or let's say they win it, or let's say they get 6th or 7th. They have no other pieces that you'd really want long term, unless you still believe in a Zach LaVine, you still believe in a DeMar DeRozan, a Sabonis. Like in my eyes, besides Keegan Murray, maybe like a Nick Clifford, like it would just be that.
But I'm sorry, Ja Morant's not a guy that I look at as a long-term piece because he's unreliable. He's unreliable in his availability. He's unreliable in his personality. He's unreliable in his play. He's not a guy that right now you can look at as a piece that is a long-term, solution or implement into your team. I mean,
but it's better than anything they have right now.
Is with how Ja Morant has played this year, is it actually better than anything they have right now? Because I'd argue, and not even saying as a long-term piece, but I'd argue that LaVine has played better than Ja Morant has this year.
He has, but he also has the same problems of even being on the court. Zach
So-
Levine's injuries. I mean, how many games has he even played this season?
So what is Ja Morant exactly? Which, by the way, this would be one of the most atrocious things the Kings have ever done, to blow up De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis and trade away your athletic point guard to just 2 years or a year and a half later not even a year, like less than a year later, basically backtrack and go get another athletic point guard and try to pair him.
Sometimes you got to fold your cards, dude.
Got to know when to hold them. Got
You
to know when to hold them.
and know when to fold. And you can hold and say that, hey, we have this new vision and we were right about trading De'Aaron Fox, or you just go ahead and take the L.
Why not just get Darren? Why not give yourself a shot at Darren Peterson then?
You get almost equally a shot of Darren Peterson while getting John Morant. Or Darren Peterson, but let's say you get the second or third pick, and then you can't get a Darren Peterson. And now you have Cam Boozer next to John Morant. Now
I'm
you
saying,
have AJ Devon.
okay. Let's think about this for a second. What are the Sacramento Kings going to trade for Ja Morant? Is it going to be Zach LaVine? Is it going to be DeMar DeRozan? Is it going to be Domantas Sabonis? Because they seem pretty committed to those guys, and the reports coming out have said that the return for Ja Morant will be less than it was for Trae Young.
Are you committed to DeMar DeRozan?
They seem to be.
I don't think they are. I think now the time has passed. Maybe, when did they say that, though? At the beginning of the season when there was hope? There is no hope anymore.
So then why
Because this team can't be better next year.
why make a trade like this then as the 14th seed, like for next year, I guess?
Yeah, for your future. For not just next year, but the year after that. John Morant's only like 26 years old.
Damn, peaked at 24. That's crazy.
Okay, he did, but like he can still get back to that. Well, you can't
He
tell
could.
me he can't
He
still get back to
could.
that.
He could. But if you're talking about an organization like the Sacramento Kings, this is a group that wants stability. This is a fan base that wants stability. That's all they really want. Because at this stage, the Sacramento Kings are basically the Cleveland Browns of the NBA. They have been so unsuccessful for so long that they're a complete afterthought in most people's minds. And the only times that people really think about them is when they're making fun of them. This organization just wants to have a stable core of guys. And John Morant is not stable. Now, if you are in a position like Milwaukee where your superstar might leave anyway, then yes, go ahead and try to pair him up with a John Morant. That's a move that at least in terms of your timeline makes sense. But trying to building what you're talking about with building something or setting a foundation for the future, John Morant could go crazy and just get suspended for another 30, 40 games next year. You don't know. You have no idea what this guy is going to do from a moment-to-moment basis.
I still think 50,
and I don't
50
think
games of Ja is better than 82 of DeMar DeRozan.
I don't think this is 50 games, whatever amount of games it ends up being. I don't think that's a risk that you want to take, especially culturally as a Kings organization, right?
I just think they're already done. They already lost. They already did all the bad moves. And
So why
you
not
just
make
start
another
rebuilding.
bad move?
It's not a bad move because you're not giving up any upside for John Morant.
No, but you are potentially ruining any culture that you might
What
create.
culture do they have right now? The Chicago Bulls.
I don't know, but they won't create any if they trade for John Morant. John Morant cannot be your culture-setting guy. That's why a trade to Miami could work, because they already have a very strong culture implemented by Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley. That's why a trade to Milwaukee could work, because Giannis is the de facto leader of that team. If John Morant goes to Sacramento, we know Domantas Sabonis is not this like super vocal guy. I don't think DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine are the leaders of that locker room. Russell Westbrook might tear his head off if they talk to each other for more than 5 minutes. So what exactly is John Morant's fit there? Is he going to be this leader for the next
I understand your point
Like,
that you think that John Morant is going to go to the Kings and create this direction, this bad direction. But if John Morant is traded and it's for literally nothing, like just like DeMar DeRozan or whatever, no future assets, it is going to humble him, and the Kings aren't going to treat him like this 5-star value. They're gonna treat him as if like they traded nothing for
Do you
him.
really think it'll humble him? Because right now it looks like he wants to get out of Memphis. We saw the clip and it looked like he was saying, "I don't mess with anybody here. I don't like my teammates. I don't like the coaching staff." At least in that clip, and now that's just lip reading, and I'm no professional lip reader. It was just,
So why do you think
know.
if he goes to Miami, things are just going to change when it comes to him?
I don't
individually?
think things will change. I think he will get less agency over decisions and over culture and over things like that. I don't think Miami will trade for John Morant unless it is made clear beforehand, you're coming here and you're buying into the culture. If you don't want to buy into the culture, you're not getting traded for.
Maybe
and
I'm
you're not
wrong for
coming here.
believing in the Sacramento Kings, but I just don't think they'd give him all this power, especially if
The Sacramento Kings won't give a player power. I wonder what happened last year. I wonder if Jeremy Lamb had the power to trade De'Aaron Fox last
That's not
year.
a player. That's not a player. That's a former player.
That makes it a lot better.
That's
That
a guy
makes
who
it a
was
lot
part of the
better.
staff. Okay, it is a lot different.
Staff and something.
Let's go with team number 4, the Toronto Raptors.
Toronto Raptors. I do like this fit, actually quite a bit. Because you look at that team, and what that team does have in spades is defense already. So from a basketball perspective, from a personality perspective, you might have some of the same issues, but you do already have pretty established guys there. Not pretty established, but decently established in RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram.
I think the Raptors are a team similar to the Miami Heat when it comes to culture, but the Raptors are more willing to work with someone. Versus, I really think Spo is just gonna like if John gives you a 5-10 bad stretch of games, that he's just gonna like stop playing you, or he's gonna humble you, or whatever.
Yeah.
I think the Raptors are more willing to work with people. They have they are like a role player culture, and I think Jaw's gonna have to buy into that. And I think Toronto,
But I mean,
as great of a city as it is less distracting than Miami. It's not.
And you look at how good they've been with Jamal Shed. And I know people really like Jamal Shed, but his numbers this year aren't exactly good or efficient. You replace that guy with John Morant. I mean, that's a big upgrade. You put him next to Scotty Barnes, who's having his best 3-point shooting season ever. I mean, that is the one problem. They don't have a ton of spot-up shooting, but they do have a lot of slashers and guys that can get to the rim. Not my only worry, but actually a big worry of mine, and it's going to sound like a joke at first, but one of the big stories that came out at the beginning of this year is that John Morant allegedly could not adjust to the European coaching style. And I'd imagine that's what's going to be happening in Toronto as well. They also have a European coach who primarily got his career started and developed overseas. So is that going to be a problem with John Morant? Is he going to be able to adjust, or vice versa? Is the coach going to be able to adjust to John Morant?
That's actually true. Yeah, because they are going to play a very team-centered kind of play. Even though I will say, I mean, Brandon Ingram, when he's on the floor, is getting a lot of the minutes, a lot of the ball, time of possession. But
yeah.
Okay, yeah, there's the Raptors. And then last team, my favorite team for him to go to, because it's just modern Showtime. It's the Pelicans.
This is the best fit for a lot of reasons. The Pelicans don't have their pick this year, so it doesn't really matter that they're bad. They might as well trade for John Morant.
One thing I will say, though, is they did just draft this, at the time, 18-year-old kid.
Jeremiah Fears.
Yeah. To be the point guard. And I just don't see Fears and John Morant being able to play next to each other.
No, not at all.
This could easily hinder Jeremiah Fears' progression as a player, especially like a year from now or 2 years from now.
But this is a very odd thought, but if you're the Pelicans, trade for John Morant, his trade value is really low right now. What would not have low trade value is a duo of John Morant and Zion Williamson, who you could then package together to another team to get some actual value out of those two pieces. Because I think individually, neither of them have too much value right now. But I think together, the intrigue of having two high-flying players, I think it does up their trade value.
Imagine the risk you have of paying a dude like John Morant $50 million, $40 million. Now imagine the amount of risk you have when you're pairing that with Zion Williamson.
That is true, actually. The money does not work.
You are now committing half of your team's salary to two dudes who can't stay on the court and have a bunch of off-the-court antics.
Never mind. That money does not work at all.
Say, you're throwing money. That's a money laundering.
I thought it was the MLB for a second. I thought we were signing Kyle Tucker and Shohei Ohtani. So
no, but I will say this would be a fun duo to watch. Would I actually want it to? No, because I mean, I also think this is very similar to the Kings, where it's like, do you cut your losses when it comes to creating a culture? Because it seemed like they are trying to create a new culture with Jeremiah Fears, with Derek Queen, and they're trying to be younger.
What's the culture?
Well, I guess
January 7th. That's the culture
where they lose by 20 to the Hawks. Let's go. No, are they really trying to? They should be trying to make a play-in run this year, especially because I don't even know if they have their first round pick next year. One of the Bucks or the Pelicans have their pick. I don't know which one it is. If you want to look that up,
I think it might be a swap worse that they have next year.
Someone has the
Milwaukee. New Orleans will receive the more favorable of its 2027 first round pick and Milwaukee's 2027 first round pick, and Atlanta will receive the less favorable.
So the Bucks don't even have their pick next year.
No, so the Bucks don't have their pick. New Orleans gets the best pick. Um, Atlanta will receive the less favorable of the two protected for selections 1 through 4. If this pick falls within its protected range and is therefore not conveyable, the New Orleans commitment to Atlanta will be lifted, and New Orleans will instead receive both picks. So New Orleans could potentially get 2 top 4 picks in next year's draft.
That is crazy. Probably won't happen, but
Probably not.
okay. I'm gonna give my order of what I want to happen. I think ideally, I think the Raptors is the best fit to me.
Yeah.
And then I do think I think I'm kind of changing my mind. I think I'm going Bucks as the second best fit just because the Bucks need some sort of upside. I'm sorry, Giannis and then all these role players who are like not fully proven, like Ryan Rollins, Kevin Porter Jr. It's not. I need some sort of a little bit of hope of them winning the championship. I think Ja gives them that. And then I think I'm going to go Kings 3, Pelicans 4. And I don't like the Miami Heat fit.
I'd go Raptors 1, Pelicans 2, Bucks 3, Heat 4, Kings 5. That'd be my order.
Sorry, what was the first one?
Raptors.
Raptors. Yeah. The Raptors is just the best fit. Just hopefully he could actually buy into the European kind of coaching. But yeah, we can move on. Ja Morant should be getting traded no matter what at the deadline. Speaking of that, we can talk about the other player who's almost guaranteed to get traded at the deadline.
Absolutely guaranteed to get traded.
You go ahead and start this off.
Jonathan Kuminga. It's been a long saga of Jonathan Kuminga and this whole will he get traded? Will he even play for the Warriors? And it's kind of odd looking at it that it's been this big of a deal, considering that Jonathan Kuminga, when he's on the floor, has never even touched the level of being a star. Now, I love Jonathan Kuminga. I think he has great potential, but obviously his production on the court has not risen to the level of even a championship level third option. So it is odd that there's been so much buzz around this. What is even more odd, in my opinion, is that after this report came out yesterday that Jonathan Kuminga was demanding a trade, which aligned with the day that he became eligible to be traded, all of the Warriors players, Steph, Draymond, Jimmy, came out and just voiced that they love Jonathan Kuminga. They love how much work he's put in. And I mean, it's just the level of support is interesting. So I was telling Corby, I think it means one of two things. I think it means that there's either a divide starting to form between the players and leadership, whether that's the coaching staff or the general manager, or what's happening is Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green sat down one night and went, we don't have enough right now to win a championship, and we need another piece. And Jonathan Kuminga is definitely going to get traded. So we should do everything we can to bolster his trade value by speaking positively of him. And I hope that's not the case, because it does seem like a genuine culture there when they speak positively about someone. But it wouldn't be the most unbelievable thing in the world, especially considering that the trade that a lot of Warriors fans are looking at right now is Jonathan Kuminga for MPJ or some variation of that. And those guys are not on the same level value-wise right now, not even close. So you need to close that gap a little bit to even consider Jonathan Kuminga being the core piece in a trade like that.
Yeah, I think first round picks would definitely have to be given up. I don't think Kuminga has, and I know a team option does hold kind of a lot of value for a team, but I think it's almost guaranteed that contract gets declined. Honestly, he would have to go to like a tanking team that is trying to lose next year for them to accept that contract.
I think unless he comes out and plays incredibly the last half of this year, which, I mean, honestly, he could, because he's sat out so much of this year. He's going to be well rested. He's going to be healthy. So if he comes out and plays his best basketball, maybe they do pick up that team option for the second year, because $25 million, $24 million in today's NBA is not, really that much. That's less than a Hartenstein is getting. And obviously Hartenstein provides a lot of value, but that's basically, you're saying a high level role player deserves $28 million a year, right? $29 million.
Yeah.
So a guy who is going to be your, second option on a decently competitive team, if he can show that he can be that guy deserves $25 million,
If Kuminga could show that, but can half a season show that for supposedly a bad team? Is a good team trading for him?
Now, is he, okay, this is the thing. Is he actually that good right now? He might not be, but can he show that for a couple months? I think he can. I mean, we saw in the playoffs last year, he did not have a game where he played bad. In the Timberwolves series, he was pretty much their leading offensive option, even before Jimmy Butler. So I don't think that it's unreasonable to expect that he could have some sort of big 2-3 month stretch to close the season. It's not that much time to have to play good basketball, honestly, especially for an NBA player that's playing every other day.
As someone who's watched Kuminga a lot, what team do you think would be best for him to get? I guess not even like paid in the summer, but like let's say a team that he would be traded to really up his value or show how good he is. I guess show how good he is.
Maybe the Wizards next to Trey. And that's not obviously a trade that the Warriors are looking at right now, especially after they just traded CJ. But
even though it's not guaranteed that Trae Young's gonna, I mean, Trey said they're already saying he will get reevaluated at the All-Star break. So that's past the deadline.
It's not guaranteed, but I mean that would be pretty horrible for the. Could you imagine if because Trey's got a player option, right?
Yeah.
Could you imagine if he declines his player option, never plays a game for the Wizards, and just goes back to Atlanta?
Honestly, cap-wise, it might actually work.
Because Porzingis' contract is up after.
But also
this
that
year.
wouldn't make any sense because we got nothing back. I guess Corey Kispert. That was the only piece we got back because CJ's a free agent. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
It wouldn't make any sense.
so you think the Wizards, even though he would have to be competing with the Keyshawn George, with the Bilal Coulibaly, with
it might help him.
hopefully he gets more minutes.
And
Like a
instead of feeling like he's stuck behind these veterans that have their minutes already set in stone, he can be in a flexible system where he's actively competing for minutes against other young players.
By the way, did you see that Cam Whitmore's injury? He's out for the rest of the year.
Is he?
So you wouldn't have to compete with Cam Whitmore. Yeah.
I mean, how much was he competing with Cam Whitmore though in the first place?
Yeah, he wouldn't
You
really
know.
be. Also competing with I mean, it's not a young name, but Justin Champagne's been really good, just like his brother on the Spurs. Just it is a decent amount of guys, but I could see Kuminga being better than almost all these guys, besides maybe a Keyshawn George. I feel like is really good.
And I don't know about the Nets really. They just got so many young guys.
They also have a bunch of wings, like a Noah Clowney and
It's hard maybe for him to find
5
minutes.
rookies.
Yeah.
That's so stupid.
Where else could he go that would really? I don't want to do the dumb thing, but I think I'm going to look at the standings just so I can remember all the teams.
I feel like if he won,
You know what? I really would love him on a Pacers, especially next to Halliburton next year. I think I would really love that opportunity
maybe, but
for him.
man, I don't want to see a duo of Benedict Mathurin and Jonathan Kuminga.
I do.
That sounds terrible for winning. I'm sorry.
Hey.
You could have one of those score kind of players on the court at once. You can't have both.
Look, chocolate is good. Burgers are good. Why wouldn't they be good together?
They definitely would not be.
Good and bad for you.
It's like if they gave, because by the way, Mathurin has to be extended. If they gave up on Mathurin, then yes, I would love a Kuminga. But even then, I wouldn't even like Kuminga and Pascal being. But then again, how many teams are going to have the perfect fit when it comes to Kuminga? Because he is a player who hasn't fully proven himself, and most teams have a dominant inside kind of force that have proven
He is a
themselves.
player who, like at his peak, you hope becomes like a J-Dub type of player. So
Jonathan Kuminga?
yeah,
J-Dub? I don't know. J-Dub, and I will shit on J-Dub every day of the week. I don't care. He really pisses me off. But like he actually has a decent amount of shot creation to him that I don't.
that's what I'm saying is you would hope Jonathan Kuminga. I'm not saying right now. Right now he's obviously
You're
just
saying
more
like
of a
eventually?
downhill, get to the basket kind of guy. But I'm saying eventually that is the type of guy you as a GM would hope that he turns into. You know?
Yeah, I just don't have that hope personally. I do wonder. He should be a guy I know the rumors were there and it never happened in the offseason. The Kings. I mean, the Kings shouldn't have that many pieces that Kuminga should be under. Besides, I guess, but they kind of do. They have Malik Monk, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Sabonis, Russell Westbrook. Like it's just yeah. So we can get off Jonathan Kuminga. That was a pretty good sign. I have a couple things I want to talk about. Let's circle back to the Grizzlies. So, yeah, we're not going with the Lakers or any. I guess the Warriors are a big name, but any other big names besides the Memphis Grizzlies, because Jaren Jackson Jr. just flew all the way to Berlin to play an NBA game to show how good he is, and he got 3 rebounds in 30 minutes. in a game where the Grizzlies out rebounded the Magic, or sorry, the Magic out rebounded the Grizzlies. I think it was like 19-8 in terms of offensive rebounds. In total, they had 20 more rebounds, offensive and defensive, throughout the entirety of the game. Now, throughout the year, the Grizzlies have not been a super, like they haven't been struggling rebounding wise. But that's bad. That it seriously is. The Memphis Grizzlies just need to do a complete reset. Reset John Morant, reset Jaren Jackson, trade everyone. They should be a team. Honestly, they're so bad already. They're 17-23, which isn't the worst ever, but they should be kind of trying to tank to get a top pick, because right now, all that hope that the Grizzlies had 2 years ago is completely gone. They are a team that I see as the Miami Heat of the West, except the Heat actually have a couple players that I believe in for the future. And the Grizzlies kind of have that, but they don't have there's not a player I have a lot of hope in.
No,
they have a lot of older rookies that are really good.
They have a roster that needs a star, is what it is.
Honestly, yeah, if you took this Grizzlies roster and gave them like a Shea, they'd be a top 3 team in the West.
They'd be pretty good, but
they have like a Cedric Coward, a Zach Edey. So it's guys who aren't super young, but they still have room to grow. It's like they're not going to grow too much, but they're good role players.
yeah.
Jalen Wells, maybe. He's like probably the youngest on the team.
That is why you need to just probably tank this year and get a guy that you want to be the center of your offense.
Like if they built around like a Dybonsta, that would be nasty. Right now they do have the 10th best odds of winning the lottery. So they're not too close. However, I could see them being worse than Milwaukee from now on, worse than maybe even like a Dallas, maybe Charlotte. Charlotte's been killing recently. We can talk about that. But yeah, I just think Jaren Jackson Jr. has so much talent, and there's a reason he went number 4 in the draft. And I feel like he's just been so complacent with who he is as a basketball player, because it's all effort. His talent is there. He is a 20-point per game scorer, which I don't think anyone really thought he would become.
And he was a defensive player of the year too.
And a defensive player of the year.
Name the guys in NBA history that have been 20-point per game scorers and defensive player of the year, and it's not a super long list.
No, so to be a guy to not do the little things, to not rebound, to not even like take a step in your scoring in the last 3 or 4 years, it's been embarrassing to see. The Grizzlies are just a lost franchise right now, and I feel bad for any of their fans because they had a good, honestly, I'm not even going to say a couple year peak, but I kind of am. Like they never even made the conference finals.
I think the biggest and most damning thing that goes against this current Grizzlies team is what came before. You look at the grit and grind Grizzlies, a team that really was a cornerstone of 2000, late 2000s and early 2010s basketball. This was a team that was built on a singular identity of playing hard-nosed basketball and doing all the little things and getting every inch you can every game. And for that reason, that team went farther than a lot of people expect them to. I'm pretty sure they did end up playing in a conference finals, if I'm not mistaken. In an Eastern Conference with a San Antonio Spurs. Western. God damn it, dude. Well, Memphis should be in the East, so maybe I'm just thinking that. Anyway, a Western Conference with San Antonio Spurs, Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, Oklahoma City Thunder with Westbrook and Durant, a Los Angeles Lakers with Kobe Bryant and Pau Gasol and Andrew Bynum, and even later on, a Warriors team with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond. I mean, they came up against a lot of good teams, and they still played extremely well against these teams, given the limited assets they had. And then you go to this team with John Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., Jalen Brooks. This team had more raw talent than that grit and grind Grizzlies team, but it doesn't show itself because that team was committed to playing basketball a certain way, and they were committed to doing the little things. And this team just, I think almost every single one of their players was not committed to doing the little things. Dylan Brooks has become more so, I would say, since he left Memphis. But
I think he was that kind of player in Memphis. I think he was.
I feel like he got even more caught up in the extracurriculars when he was in Memphis.
Oh,
the whole I poke bears thing and all that. And maybe that was just being a little bit younger too. But I would say since he's left Memphis, there's been less of that. Obviously, we see it every time it happens because everyone goes, "Oh, look what Dylan Brooks did today! What a Dylan Brooks thing to do!" But I really do think he's become a better all around player since leaving Memphis.
Yeah, and I don't know how much you want to blame the front office for how bad the Grizzlies have been, because you could say that it was a bad idea to build around a Jaren and Ja, but and build a culture that way. But they were looking like a really good team. They were a 50-win team doing that, and I
Yeah,
think
I don't think it was a bad idea at all. I
I do
really
just
don't blame
think
him for that at all.
the talent dropped off, and then just John Morant in general. I mean, John Morant always. I'm not even gonna. You know what? The first like 3 years of his career, John Morant was not this problematic guy. He wasn't. I swear it wasn't until like 2022, 2023 when things started happening. Now maybe it was Ja doing, talking shit, sure.
Yeah.
But like as he should. Like that's what young guards do. I the second that like the first off the court antic happened, that's when the whole fall off happened. And it's just
It's so hard though, because I want to say that the front office or the coaching staff or someone around him should have backed off the approach of let Ja be Ja, but that approach works really well in other circumstances. You look at a guy like Anthony Edwards, pretty close to a Ja Morant actually in a lot of ways, except he dials it back enough to not get himself in trouble. And the whole mentality is let Ant be Ant, and people love that. People loved Ja's mentality until it started affecting his on-court production, and that was really the line for a lot of people. When you're not playing games and you're playing poorly because you want to engage in things that are not basketball related, then people are going to judge you for that. But I mean, let's not forget, people loved Ja Morant. Ja Morant wasn't even like a top 10, like definitive top 10 player in the league, but I'd say he was like top 5 favorite players in the league, like in terms of how many people really liked him. 2022-23, the first 2 months of the season, he was number 1 in MVP, in the MVP race, in the MVP ladder. That's crazy to think about now. I mean, granted, this was an MVP ladder that also included the names DeMar DeRozan and Pascal Siakam, but a really insane place for him to be at. And then you look at him now, 3 years older, in his mid-20s, which should be the prime of his career, and he's playing worse than he ever has. I mean, it really is incredible. You almost wonder if he's trying to play himself out of Memphis in some way. Yeah, I really don't.
he was supposed to be the face of American NBA players.
He was. People forget that before and it was Ja. Ja was the person that everyone was looking to as the face of American NBA players. That he was the most athletic guard since Russell Westbrook. He was the next Derrick Rose. He was all of this stuff.
Him and Zion.
He had. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who had the world in the palm of his hands and could still get it back. That's Ja Morant. I mean, Ja Morant has the potential in the next 3 years to win a lot of people back. But if he doesn't, we're going to look at this as one of the biggest examples of wasted potential in NBA history, especially because we actually saw what he could have been,
Yeah, especially because the injuries aren't that. He is an injury-prone player, but that's not even what's holding him
No
back.
torn Achilles, no torn ACL, no major ligament damage. He can still jump just as well as he ever did. It's just Ja. Is Ja going to be a Ja Morant committed to playing basketball, or is he going to be a Ja Morant committed to being I don't even know how to describe it. Like just a rich Ja Morant. Like that's kind of, he's more committed to the idea of being this individual off the court than he is to being a basketball player on.
He wants to be a rapper.
He does.
That's who he wants to be. He is.
You know what?
He wants to be a Memphis
Ja,
rapper.
drop an album. Honestly,
Please don't. No, that just that signifies. Yeah, no, we're not doing that. We could move on though, because I do want to talk about a month ago we had a heated discussion about Paolo Banchero and the Orlando Magic and how good Paolo can be, how good is he, how good will he be. So we gave our predictions of how good the Magic would be. In the 10-game stretch that Franz was out. Now Franz actually ended up being out for longer. But I think in those I think it was like 13 games. You predicted they'd go 10-3, or was it 9-4?
I predicted they would go
9-10-3.
10-3 or 9-4. Either way, it wasn't.
And then I think I said 8-7.
You said 7-6.
Oh, wait, okay. Oh yeah, I said 7
and they
and
ended up
6,
going 6-7.
which is pretty
Aren't you guys
bad.
so happy? Okay. Anyway,
Gotcha. Which is pretty bad because it was an easier stretch. They did play a lot of tanking teams in those 13 games. I will say after those 13 games though, Paolo Banchero has been playing good as of recently. What do you think? A month later, what are your thoughts? Clearly, you were wrong about him leading the Magic to some wins.
I was, yeah. And that time, it's hard because I watch Paulo during his good games, and he looks exactly like the player I could describe him to be. And I think that's what a lot of people see is Paolo Banchero is a guy who has just all this potential, man. Just 6'10" with a handle, something of a jumper, can get to the basket at will, decent vision. I think the biggest thing Paulo lacks is basketball IQ. I think when people talk about the next LeBron James, it's something that they undervalue very consistently because you look at builds, we look at athleticism, we look at ability, but we do not look at basketball IQ too closely. And that is something that LeBron James has in spades that has made him as good as he is. Paulo Banchero does not have that level of basketball IQ, nor do most people in NBA history, but Paolo Banchero almost has a below average basketball IQ a lot of the time, and it really holds him back, which is why it's so frustrating because you see like his last few games, 26 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals on 16 shots, 23 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 steal, 1 block on 16 shots. And then the game before that, 30 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists on 19 shots. But that in-between game, 14 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists on 18 shots. I mean, just and the turnover numbers, 2 turnovers, 4 turnovers, 4 turnovers, 9 turnovers, 4 turnovers, 1 turnover, 3 turnovers, 5 turnovers. Like, this guy does not protect the ball well. It's... What do I think of Paolo Banchero? I think Paolo Banchero is a guy who could be a legitimately amazing playoff riser. I do not think he will ever put together a complete regular season or ever. This version of Paolo Banchero as he is now will not put together a regular season that is complete enough to be an all NBA player, is my opinion of him right now. But he could definitely be a guy who jumps to like 28, 29 points per game in a playoff series and leads his team to a playoff series win. So
I would hope he can. I don't fully believe that. My thoughts on Paulo are still the same, but I do think he can be a good player. The one thing I learned from this Magic stretch, though, is that they have a good enough team to compete. There should be no excuses for Paulo versus last year, where I'm pretty sure Paulo actually played pretty good last year in the playoffs. I forget who they played in that first round.
I could check really quick, but I'm pretty sure it Boston that they played in the first round?
It might have been Boston. But this team's not good enough. And it's because of Desmond and how good he's been as a scorer, and he's been keeping up defensively. But it's also because of Anthony Black. That dude has taken a leap next to Paulo without Franz, and I'm just really hoping it stays the same. I mean, Franz just played his first game back in Berlin, and Franz didn't play that great, but Anthony Black, still next to Paulo and Franz, played amazing. And obviously, I'm not holding it against Franz because it's his first game back, but they have a legit, not starting 5, but they have a legit top 5 players in Jalen Suggs, Anthony Black, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Desmond Bane. That should be enough to beat any team. The East is wide open. I don't care about a Pistons or a Knicks or anything. I do think there are favorites, and I would pick the Pistons and the Knicks potentially to beat the Orlando Magic in a series, but like, there's no excuse. I seriously think any team could win the East this year, and if you're really that guy, then you're going to show it. That's what it is.
I feel like the problem with Paulo is he's not as dominant as Giannis getting to the rim, so he's not going to be as effective there, and he's just not a good enough shooter to account for it in other places.
PB no J. That's what they call it. That's what they...
But okay, so his playoffs...
Half the sandwich. He's half the sandwich, man.
That's his playoff stats last year. 29.4 points per game, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, half a steal, a block on 43.5% from the field, 44.4% from 3, 65.9% from
So it wasn't efficient, but he was doing a lot. At least.
Yeah.
I think he should be doing less.
The problem is this is a 2005, 2004 like LeBron stat line. You know what I mean? This is not what the modern NBA is based around, which is this hyper efficient style of basketball. And Paolo Banchero doesn't fit into that. I think Paolo Banchero really fits into the mold of a guy who is super ball dominant and super shot dominant and would have worked when the NBA was slower and more defensive focused. But right now, with as offensively focused as the NBA is, Paolo Banchero just lags behind in a lot of key categories.
So maybe he would be more dominant with less pieces around him. But I mean, he can't prove that. Like he just had the chance to prove that. This 13-game stretch was his chance to prove that.
You know who proved that he was better than Paolo Banchero in that 13-game stretch? It was Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson just looks like a better version of Paolo Banchero. And when you talk about Jalen Johnson's defensive deficiencies, there aren't many that you could point to with Jalen Johnson that you can't also apply to Paolo Banchero.
Yeah, both can't guard.
So
I'll always pick that.
Jalen Johnson's a better distributor. He's got a better turnover to assist ratio. He's got a more efficient scoring game. He's a better rebounder, arguably. he just does everything a little bit better, and that's a big problem with Paolo because this was not always the case. Jalen Johnson did not come into the league doing these things better than Paolo Banchero. But Paolo has been he's been a very similar player since he was drafted. He's kind of just been the same player.
I know you talk about shot IQ, and I do think that is a big thing.
Why do I see? Is that Jonathan Kuminga's stat line? Okay.
Sorry. The fact that you saw Paolo's stat line and thought it was Kuminga.
I just saw the shooting splits and I was like, oh.
No, he has Kuminga's shooting splits.
He actually does.
It is IQ when he has his own team like that in that 13-game stretch. But in general, his biggest weakness is the three-point shot because there is such a small gap, in my opinion, between Franz and him, between Bane and him, and even now, the way they've been playing Anthony Black and him, he has to be a guy to space the floor for the others so that they can do their thing, which is something that Bane's been really good at recently, even though he struggled at the very beginning of the season. Franz is kind of iffy on, and then Jalen Suggs has been a good shooter. Everyone else can kind of shoot, and I just don't think Paolo has earned the right to be that number one guy where everyone else has to space for him. I think everyone should equally be spacing and sharing the ball and playing that kind of, maybe just playing like a, pick on, I was going to say Trey, but I mean like who in the East is like a cone on a contender, like a Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, I was going to say
pick on Jalen Brunson.
Sorry, no offense to Jalen Brunson. Salute, Cap, but like.
Pick on Duncan Robinson. Yeah. Play that kind of offense because everyone has shown that they can do that on this Orlando Magic team.
Yeah.
So I'm rooting for, I'm not gonna say I'm rooting for Paolo. I'm not, but like
I am though because he's 23 years old. He still is very young. He just turned 23 in November. So he's very young still. He's younger than Anthony Edwards. He's got a lot of time left to develop. But again, you look at an Anthony Edwards. You look at the way he's developed his game. It just is increasingly poorly reflected on Paolo. But speaking of the Magic, shout out Anthony Black, a guy that's been hooping over the last about month and a half. He's been playing really good basketball, looking like more than just the defensive piece that they drafted him to be. And that dunk he had in Berlin yesterday, I mean, you want to talk about getting blacked. Goodness.
That's a crazy thing to say, but that's fine.
One dude against four dudes, and he just put it in the hole over all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that team. The only reason I was saying that I'm not rooting for him is, I mean, my favorite team is in the East, and I can't root for a team like the Magic, especially in division. But like in general, like I hope to have a guy who can, win another championship. I want as much parity in the league as we can get, especially with the Thunder winning last year. Because I'm not even a Thunder hater, but I'm like, I don't want them to repeat.
I actually, in some ways, don't want them to, but also in some ways I do, because some of the most fun basketball we got in the last 10 years was 2017, 2018.
When there was...
Or 2018, really, after the Warriors won that second championship and they looked unstoppable. And then these teams started forming specifically to take down the Warriors. And that also, I think with the parity in the NBA now, would open up a lot, because back then, and I say back then like it wasn't 9 years ago, 8 years ago, but even that version of the NBA, if you built a team to take down the Warriors, you could beat pretty much anybody. But even if the Rockets beat the Warriors, they're still vulnerable to a team like the Cavs or the Celtics, right?
Yeah.
So even if you beat the Thunder, that doesn't mean you're going to win the championship. Now, if you're in the West, you might have to beat the Thunder in order to win a championship. But then that opens up a lot for the East in terms of a lot of Eastern Conference teams winning. So I think it would create a really interesting dynamic, even if they did win. I'm not opposed to it, personally.
Last topic, speaking of the Thunder, speaking of championships and all that, Jalen Williams on if Spurs OKC is a rivalry. If you got to ask if it's a rivalry, it probably isn't yet. I hate this. Personally, I do. I understand. Listen. If the world hates Shea and the Thunder, and yeah, I still root for them. The world hates Chet. I still root for him. The world hates J-Dub, and I will never root for this dude. I swear, he is so corny because he's doing all of this, and I understand talking this shit after you win the championship. I understand talking this shit after you start 23 or 25-1, which, by the way, he wasn't playing in.
Yeah.
You're just like any other team. I understand the Thunder are the best team in the NBA. But in this decade, you have won championship. Jokic has won championship. Tatum and Brown won championship.
Giannis won championship.
Giannis won championship. Stephen Curry won championship. I'm not going to count LeBron, especially because if I'm talking shit on J-Dub, I mean, let's be real. He wasn't actually in the NBA for half of these years, but still, you are not this overly dominant team that deserves to talk this kind of shit after losing 3 games straight to the Spurs. The Spurs were at one point almost halfway through the season were 50% of your losses, or probably higher. No, it was like 75, wasn't it? Maybe 60% of the losses. He needs to stop fucking talking like this. Like, it actually is pissing me off. And I'm someone, they get this podcast. It's literally called Talk Yours because it's talk your shit.
Yeah.
But dude, in the games you have been playing, the Thunder have been losing. That's just what it is. Without him, they were like 23-1 at the time. So for him to talk about, oh, if you got to ask, it's not a right. That's the reporter's job to ask you if it's a rivalry. That's his job. If you have to even ask, shut up. So what are your thoughts on J-Dub?
Well, firstly, I actually just was curious. I wanted to look at his on-off stats for this season. And I believe I'm reading this correctly. His differential is that -9? That can't be right.
Minus.
It says -12 last year, so I must be looking at this a little bit wrong.
Yeah, I can give you the on-off because I like this website a lot for it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna choose because I'm petty. I'm gonna choose to include games where he didn't even play.
Damn.
Because that is a complete on-off. When he is on the court, they are a +9 net rating, which is amazing. When he is off the court, they've been a +15. Now, I will defend J-Dub this one time. They did have a really easy schedule in those first 24 games, but nevertheless, going 23-1 or whatever it was before he finally came back, and then now they've been losing games. You can't talk shit. Because it's not just this quote. It's every quote he ever says.
Yeah.
I think it's fun. Shea being nonchalant, being like poetic. It's like, it's funny. It's cool. Chet trying to act black, doing like doing this Abraham Lincoln gimmick. That's like kind of funny, kind of cool.
I mean, hey, look,
there's nothing funny about J-Dub.
He emancipated them. Like, he is the reason. So, I mean, he kind of gets like, that little bit of like a, you know what I mean? Like a connect. Yeah, Chet.
He emancipated them.
Yeah.
But that's what makes him funny. That's what makes him special. That's what makes him, because he is so unique. Chet is so unique.
Chet is just,
he was.
I've never seen a human being, well, Abraham Lincoln, but I've never seen another human being like living that looks like Chet Holmgren or acts like Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren, you are one of one.
Dude,
you truly are.
And that's what makes you funny. I think J-Dub is like the male NBA version of Kelsey Plum doing the stupid popcorn thing. Have you seen that clip?
Yeah, he actually is.
He really is. So that's funny. You're not fucking funny. Like, seriously, this just pissing me. It pisses me off because
I've actually never seen you get this mad about a play. You didn't even get this mad when Tatum was doing all the cornball shit.
Well, because Tatum, he's at least like the number one guy. J-Dub's talking shit. Chet passed you. Chet's better than you. You're the number 3 now in that championship run.
Okay, you're not wrong. Yeah, this year Chet's been better.
Yeah. And it's not just because I seriously, I did draft him in my fantasy basketball team, but like my team's doing good. I don't care. Like I seriously, no. All this, like, it's just the quotes. It's the stupid quotes he talks about, and it's funny when they were 25-1 and he was saying that they're better than like the Bulls in their prime and the Warriors in their prime. Okay, you're 25-1 and just won the championship. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You're losing now. Shut the hell up. And then it's the whole thing of, because J-Dub had a quote talking about how every team goes through a bad stretch. It's just a bad stretch. You lost to the same team 3 times in a row. You lost to Victor Wembanyama, who is just the way, way better Chet Holmgren.
And doesn't he know it?
I mean, I almost guarantee that since you've been in the league, you and the Spurs are like 500 probably against each other, with including this 3-1. Because I'm assuming the Spurs got a couple wins last year. And
I'm going to go on a tangent for a second, then I'll answer your question. If Chet wanted to buy into this like rivalry thing with Wemby, he should shave his head too. I think that would piss Wemby off.
Oh, I
think that would really make Wemby
But he can't. No. Wemby looked so much better ball than Chet would be. Chet would not. I don't think Chet
Look
would.
at Chet real quick.
He has a little decent set of hair. It's not amazing, but like
I'm just imagining what he would have a really long head is the problem.
Is he keeping the beard?
Kind of have to, because like imagine this guy bald.
Yeah, no.
That's like He's too God, this is gonna sound weird. His face is too like Jared Walsh has a very like smooth.
Jordan. Jared Walsh?
Is there not a Jared Walsh? So maybe I'm
Jordan Walsh is the Celtics.
Yeah, Jordan Walsh is the Celtics. Jared Walsh.
That's not a person.
It sure is.
Oh, it's a baseball
It sure
player.
is.
Oh.
First baseman for the Los Angeles Angels, Jared Walsh. Shout out. Saw you play for the Salt Lake Bees a couple times. That's why you're on my mind. Anyway, Jordan Walsh, very smooth face, right? Very like so the baldness just kind of continues to the rest of his face. Chet needs the beard because Chet has a very like lumpy face. Like it's not like, but it's just like his cheekbones are very defined. So if he went bald and he also didn't have a beard, it would just look like, it wouldn't even be like an egg. It'd be kind of like a rock or something like that, you know?
He'd look like a rock.
Yeah, but
I
like,
want to see it now.
I don't know. I could mess with a bald Chet.
You can mess with him.
I think it'd be funny. What do you mean I could mess with him? What are you trying to say? What words are you attempting to put in my mouth right now?
Why do you say it like that? But overall,
Okay, so what was your question?
that was my whole point.
That was your
I
whole
was like, what do you feel about this J-Dub?
What do I feel about the
shit
J-Dub
talking? Yeah.
So I firstly about the rivalry. Is it a rivalry? Even if they have to ask if it's a rivalry, yeah, it's a rivalry. This is different than Warriors Grizzlies because Warriors Grizzlies was Grizzlies talking, Warriors beat them in the playoffs, and then nothing ever happened after that. And I feel like this is a rivalry because the Warriors didn't like the Grizzlies, but when the Warriors put their best foot forward, they beat the Grizzlies. If you watch that Christmas Day game between the Spurs and the Thunder, which I don't know, did you get a chance to ever?
I saw the highlights.
saw the
I didn't
highlights.
unfortunately get to watch it live.
The Thunder were playing with malice in their heart. Okay, the Thunder wanted to win that game more than I think they wanted. Like not more than they wanted, but in terms of when you talk about aggressive play, that was as hard as they were playing in like the finals last year in like Game 6, Game 7. And they wanted that. It was at home. They were playing intense. Jada was yelling at the crowd. They lost by 16. Okay. The Spurs still put belt to ass. I don't care if the Thunder won by 20 the last time they played them. I have never actually seen a team that is supposed to be the better team, that is supposed to be the best team in the league, put everything into a game, legitimately their best foot forward energy-wise, and not just get beat, but get beat like resoundingly. They were down like 19 in the third quarter, and that lead never got below 10.
Yeah. Also, could I just say they're in the same division, I believe, right?
Yeah, they play each other 4 times
They're
a
in
year.
the same division. They're in the same. Well, obviously,
No, they're actually not in the same division because the Spurs are in the Southwest and the Thunder are in the Northwest for some reason.
the Thunder in the
Pretty
Northwest.
sure they're in the Northwest division with the the Trailblazers, the Jazz, the let me just forget all
There's no divisions even. Like they're. Oh, here it is. Okay, I found it.
they're in there with the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, the Trailblazers, and the Jazz,
That's so stupid.
which is such an odd combination of teams.
Okay, well, pretty much they're in the same conference.
Like, why would the Suns not be in that division? But why would they not switch the Suns in the anyway?
Anyways,
I don't need to.
Same conference. You talk about one team who got the number 2 pick in Chet Holmgren, and then a year later, the number 1 pick is like the exact same build in Wemby. Chet and Wemby played when they were like 16, 17. They played basketball against each other.
Yeah.
There's been clips that come out of that. It is the best player in the league versus the like 6th best player in the, or like you can even say
and
5th
probably
best player in the league.
what most people would consider to be the future face. of
Yeah,
the
Shea is
NBA.
the future. Wemby is the future.
Yeah.
They're 3-1 against you. It even like I actually looked back and no, the Thunder for the last like 5-6 years have been whooping the Spurs ass. But I will say this is a whole new team that can actually finally compete now. You know what? The rivalry is definitely starting at the very minimum. So for J-Dub to say that, just have a little bit of humbleness in your heart.
So my thing, I want to pull up the clip real quick because I want to hear. Okay, now he's just massive. I want to hear how he said it because that matters too. I think if he said it,
You know how he said it with that dumbass voice.
let's give him a chance. Okay, let's just listen to him.
I think the answer pissed me off more. I think it pissed me off more because You're telling me what? Every game feels like a rivalry? Really? When you're playing, playing the Hornets. Oh wait, did it? Maybe it was a rival. Maybe the Hornets and Thunder are now rivals because the Thunder whooped, or that's not the Thunder. The Hornets whooped your ass. But teams like the Hornets, really, that feels like a rivalry game. Basketball is that much fun. If basketball is really that much fun, I mean, like you should be enjoying every night, right?
I think I just dislike this perspective generally. This whole I don't get caught up in the rivalries thing. If we lose a close game to a team in our men's rec league, that's a rivalry. I want to beat the ass off that team the next time we play them. Like I don't care. So if these guys at this level don't feel that way, I don't understand how they could have. That seems like a very media driven answer to me.
Like, it's like you're telling me that a shitty Eastern Conference team that you play twice a year, like that game feels just as much.
J-Dub's such a liar, dude. He was so in it on that Christmas Day game. He was yelling at the crowd and trying to get them hyped up. He was the
no. That's every game. Like, that's every game for him.
Oh yeah, he's just like that.
Every game's a rivalry for him. Like you're telling me that Wemby's talking shit on Chet every chance he gets, and that doesn't make
you're not backing up your teammate.
Yeah,
like I don't know, dude. I get where he's trying to come from. At least I just don't like this in the NBA. I don't like this whole like we don't want to talk about rivalries thing.
He said, "I don't even really care.
I'm too cool." I want to hear a player in a post game press conference go, "No, that felt really good. I really wanted to
who said
the
that?
hell out of that team."
And it was a little tamer, and it was about a team instead of a player. But KD about playing the Suns. He's like, they asked, like, how does it feel? Like, it feels great to beat your former team.
Yeah,
it does. Like Kevin Durant takes it personal every single time when he leaves a team. If he wants to admit that, like he'll admit it in the post game, and then on Twitter kind of say something else.
But this whole thing of like basketball's a job. Like, yeah, we just come and play, and it's fun, and it's.
I really feel.
I just don't believe that these guys feel that way. I don't believe that you can be at that level of basketball player.
It's literally it is an emotional sport.
I don't. It's a game of runs, and runs are emotion. It's withstanding negative emotion. It's harnessing positive emotion. It's way less tactical than a game like football, where you have coaches constantly calling in plays every single time. You might have a play called, but there's a lot of improvisation. There's a lot of individual blame, and there's a lot of individual credit that goes into it. The game is so tied to emotion, and I don't like that these players try to downplay that for the sake of either looking cool or trying to present an image of some sort. No, it's like
it's just nonchalant.
When you win, it's amazing. When you lose, it's heartbreaking, and it should be. And then you can move on from it. Then you can go, okay, I lost. That really sucked. And now I'm going to move on. I'm going to do better next time so I don't lose. But this whole idea of like, it doesn't matter. We're the defending champs. So, it's kind of like everyone comes at us and there's no real rivalries in the NBA. Everyone's just out here to have fun and like play each other. And, no, it's one of the reasons why I love Wemby and I love Ant. Those two obviously really care. And it's so funny that Ant cares as much as he does after being like, yeah, I thought about playing football instead of basketball.
Yeah, everyone, even I a little bit questioned how good he was going to be at developing his game after that. And he
might have, honestly, we want to talk about developing your game. I know he was good when he came into the league. He didn't have like a Giannis type development, but he is someone that people don't give enough credit to for as much as he changed his game and made it better for the modern NBA.
He was not a good shooter coming into the NBA. He wasn't. He'd hit shots because of his volume, but he is efficient now, which is
he might be the most efficient 3-point shooter in the NBA after Steph Curry. Like in terms of maybe not a catch and shoot guy, but when you talk about an isolation guy who's creating a lot of his own looks, either on the ball or off the ball, Anthony Edwards is definitely up there. So yeah,
cool. That was a great hour-long pod. If you guys enjoyed, we're gonna try and do this every week. We're gonna get back to doing a pod every week.
Yep. And the goal is 1,000 subscribers by the playoffs. We're gonna set it right now. Okay, we're gonna start releasing more content. So the goal right now, 1,000 subscribers by the playoffs. We're trying to hit it. Let's see if we can get there. Tell your friends about us.
I think that could easily happen.
I think it could easily happen. Let's do it.
All right, you guys enjoyed? Comment, subscribe, and any last words, Cam?
Chalant. It's not a real word, but let's leave with that energy.
It's not
today.
a real word.
Yeah.
Nonchalant is a word. Chalant is not.
But
I will go on a rant about it. So peace out.
Cool.